Giving me almost ready, redirecting to Facebook, and here we go. All right, everybody. Tonight is Drainage with Mary, the Healing Cave Lady. She's a nutritional therapist that specializes in picking up the pieces when autoimmune diagnoses are given. Because as all of you know that are out there in the autoimmune world, there's not a lot of guidance given. So I hope you're excited to hear this. She does have some experience even with PANS. So for all of my PANS people, PANDAS people out there, she's got some interesting insight to just how to use drainage and just her experiences. So here she is. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going awesome. I'm really glad to have you on here. I've read a lot of your stuff you posted out there and kind of gone through it all. And I know that a lot of people in my group follow you.
Yay.
So they're very excited to see you. So how did you get into nutrition?
So it was basically out of necessity. Of course, if anybody has PANS or ASD children, of course, my son was born 12 years ago and there wasn't a lot of information. There was no Instagram. I mean, Facebook was barely, I don't even know if Facebook was there or not, maybe. But there weren't even any videos on YouTube about PANDAS, barely about ASD or helping ASD. And when he was 2, he wasn't talking. And I took him to the pediatrician's office and I said, you know, my son's not talking. And I was pregnant. And I was like, maybe we should do some testing or do something to figure out if there's something wrong. It just seems like he should be talking. And he's like, no, boys, you know, they're just delayed speech. Well, if you go back in history now, I've connected the dots with this. He was an emergency C-section. I could not nurse him. I had all kinds of complications. He got RSV at age 1 on his first birthday. And that's when everything changed for him. You know, the strep took over his body at that point when he got RSV. It wasn't until 2 to where I started seeing some weird symptoms, you know, a little bit of lost eye contact and wasn't really speaking, kind of lost language, lost the mama, dada, all that stuff. And that's when I was concerned. And I went with my gut and decided to get some early intervention stuff. But I mean, within 6 months of that doctor's visit, he went from happy, you know, not talking, but, you know, everything else was typical, to losing, he lost all language. He couldn't not say anything. And he was absolutely insane. I mean, running around tables in circles, stimming, poop painting. I mean, literally didn't know where he was in space and time. And it only got worse till he was 3.5. And the doctors were like, you know, I was seeing an integrative, holistic medical doctor, and I went and saw Defeat Autism doctors because the doctors were like, he has autism, all of these things are normal. And I'm like, not sleeping for a year and screaming all night is not normal. I don't care. I know something's wrong. You know, him scratching at his stomach, and, you know, just doing self kind of injurious, not real like head banging or anything like that, but just feeling like something's wrong, tearing at himself, rolling around on the floor, trying to get, you know, stimuli, all that stuff. I knew something wasn't right. And I knew that I was going to have to figure it out myself. And Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, had the Gut and Psychology Syndrome book. And I started looking into that, but that was around the time that, we were doing all of the biomedical testing. And, you know, I had just gone home from the doctor's office. We did all these tests. Of course, everything's out of pocket. I was poor. I had to sell everything. I couldn't work, you know, I just had a brand new baby by that point. And my son was completely insane. And had a brand new baby, and the doctor ran all these tests and he goes, you know, I'm going to send you home with this one test. Let's not do it. You already spent thousands of dollars out of pocket. It's just going to say whether he needs to be on probiotics or not. And we already have one probiotic, so I'm just not worried about it. So just take it home, but don't do it. It's like $400 out of pocket. So it was the Genova stool analysis test, the comprehensive stool analysis test. So I took it home. I didn't touch it. And a couple months later, the Lord was like, do that test. And I was like, okay. So I mixed up the stool, sent it off, didn't even think twice about it. A month later, my son was the most crazy he had ever been in his life. I remember being at a birthday party. He was rolling around on the ground in the dirt. He was running into walls. He was screaming. I called my doctor and I was like, something is very, very wrong. And he goes, did we ever do that stool analysis test? And I was like, yeah, the one you told me not to do. Yeah, I did that like a month ago. And he goes, well, I'm going to call them. And he called them and he goes, we'll have the results tomorrow. And I'm like, awesome. So I was driving and the doctor called me and he goes, I got the test results back and you need to stop what you're doing and go to the Walgreens on Murray and Shoals Road. Your son has so much strep in his body, he could die. And this is the thing with, you know, medical doctors. They don't look at everything. And I just remember it's so clear him going, we don't need to do this test. And as a parent, as a mother, you need to use your intuition and go, like, you can't take everything a doctor says and say, okay, and just go with the flow. You really have to just listen to your intuition. If your intuition says, do a certain test or don't do something or give your child something. My son, you know, people assume that he was vaccinated and that's how he's injured, never had a vaccine in his life. Yet he was completely loaded with heavy metals, arsenic, mercury through the roof. Those are tests that we did run. And those were all just passed from me. And a lot of people don't know. You pass your heavy metals, your fetus is a cleansing mechanism for your body, and you pass all those things on to your child. So I was just hardcore, and I put him on the gut and psychology syndrome diet, the GAPS diet, which is this book behind me. And we started doing some supplementation that was in the book, and I realized that dairy was causing a lot of issues, and Saccharomyces boulardii, all yeasts were causing aggression. And dairy and yeast had to stay out. And I have noticed with every single one of my ASD kids that I've worked with over the years, which there's been a bazillion, that dairy being introduced too soon and any form of yeast, whether it's Saccharomyces boulardii, kombucha, brewer's yeast, whatever it is, had always caused aggression for every single. I had all of my parents take them off all yeast and then try it. Every single one said they either started hitting things or biting things or just mood swings. So that's just a little tip for anybody that's dealing with yeast right now with their children that are on the spectrum. But we started healing his gut, and then I realized, whoa, I have some major gut issues. I think everybody in the family needs to be on this diet. So I put my newborn on it. I put my husband on it. We all did it, and we all started healing. And then down the road, lived in a black mold house for 8 years. For 8 years, black mold. I didn't know I had Lyme disease, but the black mold brought it out. And then I got Epstein-Barr. I got mono. I thought I was going to die for 6 months. Basically, we found out we had the mold. Moved out. Got it kind of taken care of, but my health took a huge hit for many years until I started getting into testing, bioenergetic testing. And that's when I started healing. And then we learned drainage through all of that together. I mean, getting our sauna. I realized, doing all of the biomedical stuff without working on allowing your body to drain naturally on its own, nothing worked. It's like nothing would stay. You could do IV chelation, but those metals would just build back up because you're not teaching the body to drain on its own. So it was really, really important for us to work on drainage, from dry brushing to lymphatic massage to just getting out and moving our bodies and using heat every day, using cold therapy, just kind of bouncing back and forth from all of those things until I remember my son, the first day he finally sweat. He would never sweat. And the first day he finally sweat in the sauna, I had him do jumping jacks, running around in circles, going crazy, and then sit in the sauna. And then finally he started sweating. I was like, oh, he's sweating. It took probably like 2 months, to get him sweating. And then after that, it was like the child changed completely. He went from 10 words to 3,000 words in 6 months with sauna, diet, digestive enzymes, probiotics. I remember digestive enzymes and probiotics, the combination that I used, going, why didn't any doctor tell me this? Like I remember it was HMF powder, and back then it was Enzyme Medica, digest gold, and we'd open up the capsules and sprinkle it in everything, and we would put them in smoothies. Every single smoothie, he got like multiple capsules a day, and that and the HMF powder I'd put in everything, and it was life-changing for him. I mean, he got the most verbiage, like he got the most speech during all of that. But that's how kind of it all started. And then I realized every disease stemmed from the gut. People started seeking me out because I started putting videos on YouTube, because I'm like, people need this information. There's nothing on YouTube about ASD. So I would sit in front of my sauna in my kid's room and put videos up on how to heal and what to do if you find out your child's on the spectrum, from getting early intervention help to not worrying about getting an actual diagnosis. Because a lot of people think, I'm going to get a diagnosis, I'm going to go to a doctor and get a diagnosis, and then they're going to tell me what to do. Well, they don't. They don't tell you what to do. So I kind of started putting that information out there, and then I would just get contacted by tons and tons of people locally and all across the United States. And I just started working with people. And then, I mean, from kids that had horrific eczema, like where their skin would be peeling off and just bloody and sores, and they'd get healed from the GAPS diet and enzymes and, probiotics and drainage and just everything across the board, Hashimoto's and all kinds of disease. And they would literally heal themselves by working on their gut and detoxing. So
let's step in and break a little of this apart. I know you said PANS, and not everybody that follows me knows what PANS is, so I'm going to give a little bit of an explanation on it. It's pediatric acute neuropsychiatric disorder. PANDAS is by strep, PANS is by literally anything, all the things you mentioned, whether it be Lyme or metal or mold, that can trigger an autoimmune reaction that creates encephalitis or inflammation on the brain. And they're seeing a little bit of it being in the basal ganglia now, which is a small part of your brain that can help control behavior. So that's a bit of what PANS is, or PANDAS is, and that's what her son dealt with. For all of you that have been listening or stepped in late, she went on a journey of healing through all of this, using so many different pieces that brought her into nutrition. And she kind of went through an overview of all of it, but I want to break it down for everybody because it's an incredible story, and it's helped you to learn so much about what you're doing today. So you mentioned several supplements throughout this. So if we had to break it apart, if you're working with someone autoimmune, we'll talk about diet, we'll talk about supplements, we'll talk about therapies. But supplements, is there like a protocol that you like to do, or your favorite supplement? Like, what would you say is some of your favorite pieces in the supplement realm?
Well, I start with whatever's going on with them first. If someone has massive rashes or brain fog, or, like, it really kind of depends on where they're at, whether I'm going hardcore on binders or trying to clear brain fog, or if I'm going, most people come in, it's digestive, it's either constipation or diarrhea, or soft stool constipation, or back and forth. It's massive bloat, and I guess brain fog's always there. Massive bloat when they eat absolutely everything or anything. So I would say like 99% of people need a good digestive enzyme and or hydrochloric acid, depending. I always do bioenergetic testing, so it tells me exactly what they need. Mm-hmm. But almost everybody benefits from a digestive enzyme. I've tried like every company on the planet, and across the board, the Enzyme Science Complete Digestion has been my number one go-to, where people are like, I've tried every enzyme and I tried that one, and it was like the best. And I'm like, I know, like, I tried every company, and for some reason across the board, that one just works the best. And then for kids, a lot of times I'll put them on the Enzymedica Children's Digest. It's like a chewable, but I tell the parents, man, the powder, if you just open up that capsule and get it into something, a smoothie or something, it works so much better. And I remember for my son, it was life-changing for him, because if you can remove that inflammation on the gut from the undigested food, and allow the body to absorb those vitamins and minerals from all this organic stuff people are putting in their body, it's a game changer. And then I would definitely say probiotics. across the board, the HMF probiotic line has, it's a human bacteria. And so it's more bioidentical. It doesn't die in the stomach acid. It's not spore based, but it's a human strain. They do so much university testing with it, and they have for many, many years. It's from a company called Soroil. And that one has made the biggest difference across the board, from bowel issues like having formed stools for people that had, not desirable types of bowel movements, to just calming nervous system stuff. I remember my son, he was just way calmer when I gave him that one. And then I would bounce around. I'd give him the Bifidal, and I would switch him to the multi-strain. But anything with yeast, we had to stay far, far away from. And I've noticed that with a lot of my clients. And I know there's so many studies out there that, Saccharomyces boulardii and other yeasts are just supposed to be just like amazing and helpful. But I've noticed it sets a lot of people back. And every time we kind of just throw it in there, it causes issues. So that one has just always been interesting. But those to start. And then we always work on sleep, whatever's going to optimize the person's sleep, and always magnesium. I have never found a client that didn't test that they needed magnesium. And like I said, I always do bioenergetic testing. I'm like, oh, magnesium. Like, it's always, I think magnesium and vitamin D are always really prevalent. I see more instant outcomes with people needing magnesium. Like, they start taking, they're like, whoa, oh my gosh, like, I'm waking up and pooping without coffee, and I'm sleeping deeper. But then I would also just, I would test to see what else could help them sleep, whether it be GABA or melatonin. And melatonin is controversial because people are like, you should make your own melatonin, or get up early and watch the sunrise, which I do every morning. But if your body needs it, you have to get it. And I've just seen it change people's lives. So I'm like, you know what, whatever your stance is, like, test. If you're deficient, if you can't start making it, then I definitely would say supplement, at least a small dose.
No, I talk to people all the time about that. And I'm like, hey, look, we don't want you to take melatonin forever. I don't want you to take a bowel mover forever. I don't want you to take even magnesium necessarily forever. I'd love you to get everything out of your diet. But
yeah.
That's not always going to happen. Sometimes you're sick and you're not absorbing, and you're stressed and you're not making that hormone like melatonin. So we've got to do so much on the other side of it to get you going. And a comment on the yeasts, yeasts like Saccharomyces boulardii go in and they actually cause die-off. So they'll fight against Candida albicans, creating die-off, which then you need detox and drainage to handle. So I see that so often as a little war that happens. And I also do bioenergetic testing. And if you just poke on somebody's liver, if they're in your office or on their gallbladder, they'll be like, oh, it's tender. As soon as you've given them something like that, I'm like, well, you're having die-off. Your body can't handle it. That autistic kid or PANS kid are going haywire because of it. Whereas the adults are like, oh, I'm just feeling a little tired. I'm like, yeah, it's the same thing as us going after parasites or going after bacteria. So I see that too. So I don't use a ton of that myself, even though it's something a lot of people do. And if I do want to use it, I'm going, well, let's wait a little while until I get your drainage open.
Yes.
So some of my favorite drainage products out there are some of the Cellcore products, like the kidney liver, the TUDCA, which cross into the detox talk a little bit too. But what are your favorite drainage products?
Oh, well, I just started using the KNL. I mean, back in the day, we didn't have Cellcore. So we didn't use those back then. But now the KNL, the kidney and liver, the TUDCA, I mean, personally for me, that TUDCA has been huge. But I would say Mito ATP was the product that opened, I don't even know if it's supposed to be really for drainage. I know it's more mitochondrial, but it opened up my drainage kind of like from my head to the rest of my body. I remember I started taking it and I was like, I always had issues with drainage in the face from the head. And I started taking that and it was like, it was a real game changer for me. I think on a cellular level, I needed that. But then I would definitely say the TUDCA and the KNL. And then also I take Apex Energetics Biomin, and I love that product too, but I'll take the TUDCA and that, and I'll rotate. It does have some similar ingredients, I think, to the KNL, but I still rotate it in because I see a really big difference when I take that one too.
I used Biomin a ton, and then Tudka came out, and I definitely don't use it near as much. But I
Yeah.
did still use it. I like that product too. As far as the Mito ATP, what I've seen is Mito ATP gives cellular energy.
Yep.
And you were talking about opening up your head. Well, there's 10,000 mitochondria in every cell in your brain. So if you turn on cellular energy in the brain, you're going to start detoxing the brain. And
Yep.
then it just pours out. And if the body can handle it, it's amazing. If the body can't handle it, which so many of my PANS kids can't initially, then we can get into a bit of a detox mess. But yeah, that one is amazing. I've tended to use it a little more toward the end in my protocols. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Take a little Mito. And then here comes metal taste, and here comes radiation and mold coming pouring out. And as long as we're
Wow.
ahead of it, great. If we're not ahead of it, well.
Totally. And I think I was always really hardcore on liver drainage first. So it worked. And I mean, my son was I have the very first videos on YouTube on how to restrain a child for an enema. Like, I mean, like there was nothing out there. How do you give a kid an enema? There was no videos on enemas. I was like, there's no videos on even how to perform an enema. Like, so I was like, I had this big, huge bear that I took a fitted crib sheet and I was showing on the bear. I was like, well, you take the fitted crib sheet and you put it around the bear's arms so they're kind of stuck in there, and then you roll them up and then you roll them on their side. And that's where you have an iPad with their favorite show on, so they're just totally distracted. And because that fitted sheet comes right under their arms, it's like you can go in and do an enema. And I found the first on the market. They were so hard to find. Pure Life made them, but they weren't on Amazon back then. Silicone enema nozzles. And I mean, my son got an enema probably 5 days a week for 4 months back. I mean, if I didn't, the doctors had him on Miralax, and they were having me do fleet enemas. And I remember going, before I give my kid a fleet enema, I'm going to try that on myself. Painful. Horrific cramping. I mean, that is the most horrible thing you could do to a child. I was like, I'm not giving my kid. I'm like, have you done a fleet enema on yourself? And then I tried a water enema on myself. I'm like, that's way more comfortable, So I just figured out what worked, and we did it to him. And I remember the first time he was like, ah, and then after that he was like, oh, I get to watch an iPad, and like, okay. And then I would slip it in there with that soft silicone enema tip, and he would barely notice it. And he would, of course, when the water started coming in, he'd be like, you could tell he's getting uncomfortable. And right when he got too uncomfortable, I was like, okay, to the toilet. And I had a little potty seat that I put him on right there. But I just remember just knowing where to hold the bucket, like the height, because if you hold it up here, the water's going to come shooting in their bum, and like all those little nuances that are just never taught. And I was just like, whoa. Like how to give a B12 shot, like all those things. It was just like nobody was out there giving that information out. And I remember kind of pioneering. And then now it's like, man, information overload. But still, I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there. Like there's a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to traumatize my child by giving them an enema and it's going to ruin them for life. And I'm like, those enemas saved my child's life. Like no joke. And he got to the point where it was comfortable. And like nasal rinsing, all that stuff. You're like, I can't nasal rinse my child. Like, oh my gosh, they're going to feel like they're drowning. And I'm like, no, you put them on an elevated pillow and make sure they're up so it's not going back into their brain, and, get them excited for it and tell them what a big kid they are and that they can do it. And I have a video on YouTube, me demonstrating nasal rinsing on my daughter. I didn't have to restrain her. She was like, I think she was 4. And she's just sitting up, and I'm like, let's do some nasal rinsing. And I'm like, your child won't be calm like her, because I've done this to her for a long time. And now she knows she's a big girl, and she's like, and I'm like spraying up her nose, and then I have her blow, and, and then I'm sucking with the nose Frida and all that stuff. And I'm like, you're not going to traumatize your child by doing these healthy things for them. They're going to realize that those things are normal. As they get older, it's going to be more traumatizing to start it when they get older, like changing the diet or starting a therapy. So you're better off doing it at a young age and kind of letting them know that that's normal.
Well, it sounds like you've had a lot of experience. Like I work with a lot of parents, and I start bringing up coffee enema, and I get the exact same thing. They're like, wait a minute. What did you say? Like, all right, let's start with a castor oil pack. Let's do some dry brushing. Let's build in. If your kid needs the coffee enema, we'll talk about it. If they don't need it, then, we can steer clear. I mean, I know it's invasive, but it's powerful. And I've got some kids right now doing some nasal sprays, doing like an oxygen or a para 3 mixture and spraying it up there. And all of a sudden now you've got little white strings coming out that happen to look like little worms, or you've got charcoal looking stuff coming out because you've got mold in there. And parents are like, wait a minute, can we do this too? Oh
Yep.
yeah. Is it fun at first? Well, no, but it's worth it. You've got to do what it takes to heal. And no one wants to hurt their kid or cause discomfort to their kid or traumatize their kid. But you also don't want to leave your kid where they can't learn or have fun and they're anxious and they're OCD, which is all pan symptoms. But as an adult, I've seen massive anxiety come flying down because you get some toxins out, whether it be an enema or a nasal rinse, either one. So I love that you put some videos out there about your kid because parents are they just want to know that they're helping.
Yeah, exactly. And that they're not permanently damaging their child, like by, it's like, I gotta stick something in their butt or stick something up their nose. And my kid's already, they think that their kid is traumatized. When your child's head is in the clouds, I will tell you this much, like they want to be able to be present. And my son I could tell he wanted so bad to speak. He wanted so bad. And he was just in the clouds. And I remember, so many parents focus more on the therapy side of things, but they don't want to do the food intervention. And they think, well, we just therapy. And I was like, I cut out all therapy when my son was in the clouds. I was like, why put anybody through that? He's never going to remember. If he has all this toxicity going on, he doesn't know where he is in space and time. How is therapy going to help him? And I remember once we got the brain cleared and I put him in ABA therapy, he did he would learn something every single day, as where, you have a kid that really just needs detox and food intervention and needs to learn how to eat healthy. And be able to think clearly, and then you start doing that stuff. But you really have to work on the drainage and the detoxification first before you can throw a kid in all of that therapy every single day.
I agree. I get a lot of parents that have done tons and tons of therapy, see very little result. Not that therapy is not valid, it is. It's just that, think about it. If you're drunk, which is what toxins are, if you're
Yep.
drunk, how well do you learn? Are you going to go sit down and take algebra or pre-calculus? No, you're not going to do well. Now, if you come back to being sober and you're focused and you're clear and you're sitting there, it's great. I do something called neurofeedback in my office, and it's an amazing tool. And if somebody's ready for it, 10 sessions that can be life-changing for anxiety, depression, especially with PTSD. But I don't even put people on it until I've made sure their brain's cleaned up, because I'm like, I'm not wasting your money or my time to put you into something that's not going to solve a problem.
Yep. I agree.
So since we jumped into modalities a little bit here, as we've talked about coffee enemas, what's your favorite? Is it sauna, coffee enema?
I would say sauna and coffee enema. I think those things, like everybody should do those. Like anybody that can physically do those two things, those are the biggest hands down game changers for me personally, with Lyme, mold, Epstein-Barr, all of that stuff. They have been the biggest game changers for me. For my son, enemas and sauna were huge for him, getting him sweating, getting the circulation, because a lot of kids on the spectrum and a lot of kids that have Lyme or mold or any types of any of those, my child's trying to talk to me, any of those, she's distracting me. Go wait. Any of those types of things, we tend to just shallow breathe all the time, in flight or fight constantly. And there's just a huge lack of circulation in the body. And when you sauna, it increases the circulation. It gets your heart pumping, and you relax, you're like, oh, it's warm. It feels good. I can do some breath work. It just gets things going. And then, man, coffee enemas, I always say that's like my dream night, is just like relaxing, coffee enema, bath. Like, I'm like, that's like my favorite thing on the planet. Like, I'm like, light a candle, coffee enema. This is the best night ever. Like, I love the way they make me feel so much. And my clients are the same way. Like, they're like, I didn't want to try it. Like, people will buy all the stuff to do it and they won't do it for a year because they're so intimidated by the process. And I'm like, get 3 under your belt, because the first one can cause a lot of die-off. It can cause flu-like symptoms. It's not always the funnest. You might crap everywhere. You might make a mess. You know, yeah, it's a reality that might happen. Second one, you're like, oh, I held it for like a minute. Like, you know, I'm doing good. And I made it to the toilet. And I realized I shouldn't hold the bucket so high, or you need to start figuring out. But you're on your third one, you're like, dang, I feel good after that. I have energy. Like, and then once you crack it, you're just like, okay, I'm feeling so good from these enemas. Like, I would do one every single day. And I know, I don't remember which movie star, like back in the day, her secret was for her skin, and everything for her body was a coffee enema every morning. And I believe it, because they are amazing. What's wrong?
The family coming in. The
Yeah.
true mother right here on the video, talking to the kids, doing both, multitasking. Well, coffee has been incredible. They're probably the most effective detox tool that I've had people do. You're making me want to get in my sauna now. I'll tell you what, during the summer in Kansas City, when it's humid and hot and you just walk outside and you start sweating, I don't do much sauning in the summer. Toward the winter, I'm like, oh yeah, where's that sauna at? I'm going to get my workout. I'm going to sit in the sauna. But all right, so for you, you've talked about mold in this, you talked about Lyme. What was your biggest health struggle that you had to defeat for yourself?
Oh, it was when I was living in the black mold, and I didn't know. I got hit with mono and shingles, and kept relapsing over and over and over. And every morning I woke up, I felt like I was dying. I felt like I had a brand new flu. I gained like 50 pounds, probably mostly in water weight. I was barely eating anything. And I could barely get out of bed, and I had 2 kids, and I had 2 kids, and I'm trying to remember. No, I didn't have the third yet. But yeah, I literally could barely move. And I was just seeking help anywhere I could. I was going to ERs. They'd put me on steroids. I'd go on steroids, and literally, like, the rashes would go away from my shingles and stuff. And I don't know if it was a combination of shingles and just die off from the mold, like, because I was living in mold. But I felt like I was gonna die. And then I finally found the nutritional therapist that had the bioenergetic testing to figure out everything that was going on. And she put me on homeopathics. And that, I mean, in 3 days on homeopathics, it changed like 60% of my situation. But once we realized how much mold was in my body, I had to get out of my house. And that's when we found where it was. And I got out, and I had to move out during the whole remediation, but getting out of the mold is really what helped. And then the homeopathics. And then I went on hardcore binders daily, and they just slowly worked up, and then started putting me on like biocidin and things like that. And the biocidin was even too much at first, but that was the big game, is getting out of the mold that helped the most. But yeah, we had to start really slow with just drainage, using homeopathic drainers, because they couldn't even put me on barely anything, because everything was causing such die-off that, I mean, I could barely talk. I had shingles all the way across my face, all over my body. No doctor even diagnosed the shingles, because they weren't typical the way that they were coming. They weren't all over my back. It was all over my face and all over my arm. And nobody tested. Nobody was touching my kidneys for mono, or and they're like, holy crap, you have mono, shingles, Lyme disease, mold. But it took a good, I would say, 6 months to get really clear of that and just work my way up. But it was a lot of sauna was my saving grace, literally, like sauna. And then the more I got into binders, I remember doing, we would get the bentonite clay. It was called Detox clay. And I would put those in enemas. And I was doing it for me and my son. And I could not believe, I was like, I can actually think. My brain fog was so bad. If I knew I had to go to the grocery store, I would have a panic attack thinking about what I actually had to get. Like, if I bring a list, like, everything threw me into a full panic. I remember fainting in linens and things because I was trying to buy stuff, and I had such a bad panic attack, I passed out, because just thinking about what I needed to do was too much. It was like my brain fog was that bad. And I remember doing enemas with the bentonite clay in it, and my nutritionist said, don't do that. It's going to rob you of all your minerals. I'm like, you don't understand. I can think when I do it. I started taking it in every way I could. I just needed the binders so bad. And I did it on my son, and he was the same. He'd be so clear-headed when I put the bentonite liquid in his enemas. And I was like, can I keep doing this? She's like, no, you got to stop doing that. It's going to rob him of his minerals. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I just remember it was clearing all the mold out of both of us. It was doing something. But that was really huge. When I switched from I had a high-tech health sauna back then, because that was like one of the autism ones that everybody raved, because it didn't have the types of wood that gave off VOCs. Oh. But when I switched to the type you could have your head out, like the little portable one, those were way better for us, because the head didn't overheat and the body could really detox. So for me, when I switched to that little portable sauna, that was a game changer. I switched to the little relax sauna, and I was like, holy moly, like I can detox 5 times faster not having my head in, because by the time my whole body was hot, like my head was overheated, I had to get out quicker. And when I'm in the little portable saunas, I can sweat like a psychopath in my head. I'm sweating on the face, but I'm not overheated, so I can detox better in those portable saunas than I could in the large. They look a little bit more ghetto, but but for me, they worked way better. For us, they worked a lot better.
I actually have 2 Therasage saunas with my head out. We use one in my office, even though I have like the big box one. That's low EMF. The Therasage portable is low EMF, and I end up putting people in the portable more than I do in the big box, because there's so many people that are sick. Their anxiety is out of the world, and kids, to be honest, kids, get them in something where they can't breathe, they're not going to stay there. But get them where they're sitting with their head out, and then you can put their arms out and they're playing with their iPad. They'll sit there for 2 hours. Not that we wouldn't do that, but
I know, but they will just sweat and sweat and sweat. I would just give my son a drink, and like he was just chill. If he could watch something, he was stoked. But if their head gets overheated and they just feel like you said, that anxiety, then it just becomes too much. But yeah, I definitely, those portable saunas, I feel like everybody should own an enema bucket and a portable sauna, and go nuts, because those 2 things, hands down, were the biggest game changers for us, hands down. And then all the supplements and the clean back.
That answers my next question for you, right? If you picked one thing for the most rapid healing, what would it be?
Those 2 things. I mean, depending on the person. I mean, if you have horrific issues with, bowel movements, I feel like an enema is so much more than a bowel movement, because of the effect that it has on the liver. But I would say 50% of people, the enema bucket, and 50% of people, the sauna. But I mean, those 2 things are the most powerful things that I have ever seen, not just for circulation and heat shock proteins and just rapid healing, but one facilitates that circulation and clearing things up, gets that lymph all moving, and the other one just opens up the pathways so that you can drain. So I just think those 2 things are the most powerful things that you could do. And then I would add cold therapy, but those are my top 3.
Those are some really good ones. And to be quite honest, once you have them, they don't cost very much. So that's really nice too. You can reuse and reuse and reuse. I've had one of my portable saunas for, 3-4 years now. And I just got a brand new one because, it's starting to look a little janky after having clients in it so many times, which that's all right, because it's worth it to get people better. All right. So if somebody was going to invest in their health, what's your top priority?
Oh, I would say top priority is always what's going in first. So that would be their diet, because that's 100% under your control, what goes in your mouth. And I would say that would be number 1, would be making sure that you're eating what agrees with your body. I wouldn't say there's a particular diet for anybody, because, you can have someone with oxalate issues, or that have issues just breaking down raw vegetables, or, they can't do certain things. It's just doing an elimination diet and finding out what agrees with your body, what your body does well with. I think that is number 1. And it has to be full on elimination, because like I said, I can't be like, hey, people always say, what's the best diet? And I'm like, no such thing, because that's going to be for anybody, until you eliminate absolutely everything and be like, okay, I'm going to start with 3 things and start adding things in. But gosh, I really felt good that day, and just journal. I'd say absolutely what is going in your mouth. And then number 2 would be your mindset. That might be first, actually.
You have the right mindset to eat right?
Yeah. But just always thinking and envisioning yourself healthy. because a lot of people take ownership of being sick. And if you take ownership of being sick and you call yourself, like, I hate it when people start an Instagram and say healing Holly or healing Jesse, or it's like, no, envision healed. You know, if you're thinking that you're always going to be on this journey of healing, then you're envisioning yourself sick. And if you envision yourself sick, that's where your brain is going to go. It's going to go sick. It's never going to see, you have to give your brain somewhere to go, and then it's going to figure out the steps to get you there. But if you're always thinking sick, then that's where your brain is always going to take you. Until I switch that in my own head, is until I did not start getting better, until I said, you know what? I remember being like 16 years old and riding in a friend's convertible, and just the feeling of being healthy and free. And I always envision that, like, I can be that again, you know, like that's that feeling of just being like, you know what? I feel so good. That's possible. Like, I can feel like I have no pain in my body. I've gone, like, 8 months ago, I was a wreck. You know, I don't know if it was 8 months, maybe April. How long ago was that? I don't know. I was a wreck because, you know, I don't know if like the quarantine stuff started, and, you know, my brain was in the gutter because I was so much anxiety and things were going bad. And I'm like, I'm just going to get sick in my house. And, you know, like, and it started happening. And then I made a change in my brain. I said, nope, this is not going to happen. I'm only going to eat foods that serve me. I'm going to see myself healthy. I'm going to go through this quarantine and figure out how to get as healthy as possible. And I went from like hobbling around my house, being in so much pain, every step up the stair being in so much pain, to like lifting and losing a whole bunch of weight. I did the full moon. I did my first full moon cleanse during that, and I ended up doing 2. And then I ended up, within the course of a few months, losing 30 pounds because I gained a whole bunch of weight. And I lost a whole bunch during that. And I was like, dang, this is me. 4 months ago, I was like a mess and heavy and in pain everywhere. I'm like, I have zero pain in my body. My brain is clear. Like, I was like, my life is changed. But I thought that way first. And, you know, along came the full moon cleanse, you know, and which I had never done before. And I was like, this was life-changing for me. I mean, I was watching this biofilm and mold and bazillion worms come out of my body, going, holy cow, no wonder I was so inflamed. No wonder I can eat a tiny carrot and gain 3 pounds overnight. You know, it's not like I was ever been a bad eater. It was just that I had so many critters in me just going nuts. But the mindset is first.
Yeah. I love all that. I mean, you went mindset, you went therapies. I'll talk about supplements a little bit because I wanted to throw a little bit out there. Mine right now, when people are calling me, they're like, well, you're booked out, or we can't get in, or we can't afford it. I'm like, just get a detox drainage little supplement purchase going and get on that. So I actually put that together for everybody, and I'm giving 10% off today, which is simply just some of the binders that we've talked about today. So it's lymphatic, it's TUDCA, it's kidney, liver, it's Biotox. It's just giving people an opportunity to get started. I've had
Yep.
kids literally come in, or adults with anxiety, with just achiness, arthritis feelings throughout their whole body. And I'm like, just start a couple of these a day and get going on them.
Yep.
And I've seen things resolve. And they're just like, that's it. That's all I got to do. Like, well, not quite, but it's a great start. And just get going on something. So I did put something together for that. If they get to my website, just so that they get an opportunity to get something going for them. Because those are some of my favorites. I mean, anytime I start feeling swollen, I mean, I did just go to Nashville this past weekend, and I probably ate some food I shouldn't eat. I'll be honest, I went out and I had a drink and listened to some live music, and I just enjoyed myself. And I was like, I feel a little puffy when I came home. I was like, all right, TUDCA, kidney, liver, let's get it out of me, get back on track. Because I'm usually an organic paleo guy, but, you know, Nashville had some really great tacos.
Tacos are always trouble.
They are trouble. All right, so for everybody out here that's watching, and by the way, we've got like 130 people watching. How do people know what to do next? Where to start and how to move forward?
I actually, over the years working with clients, you know, when I started working in an office and making, you know, nutritional therapy my job, I worked only word of mouth. And over the years, I saw over 600 people probably. And I noticed when I worked with them, it was all the same stuff we had to work on. I was like, oh my gosh, you need to do this and you need to do this. And I'm like, man, I feel like a broken record. So I started keeping track of what made the biggest difference in people's health. And I ended up making something called the Roadmap to Health. And I gave it to every single client that came in. And it was a little cute roadmap that I had drawn up from getting in the morning and starting with gratitude and being thankful, and then moving on through the day, digestive health, having breaks between meals, not eating too late, detoxing, like all of those things. I created this little roadmap, and each stop in the roadmap had one page that went over very simply why you were doing what you were doing. And I created a class, a video class for it. So I have that on my website, and it's 100% free. You have an hour-long video class, and this is what I talk to every single client about. Every single client that came in my office, we had this talk. My visits were 2.5 hours long, sometimes 3 hours. And if people flew in, they would be in my office for 5 hours. So yeah, I'd have celebrity clients fly in, and we'd spend 5 to 6 hours together. And it was like me giving them this class and then going over their specifics. But just those things make such a big difference. Sometimes a client couldn't make it in, they cancel their appointment last minute, and they're like, okay, can I reschedule? I'm like, well, now I'm 2 months out. And they're like, what do I do? Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was going to be that big of a deal to get back in. I go, you know what? I'm going to give you my roadmap to health. I'm going to have you watch this video. And they would work on everything themselves. And by the time they came back and saw me, half of their problems were gone. So the roadmap to health class, the print off, everything is on my website, and it's free. So if you go to healingcavelady.com and you click on masterclass, it gives you the hour-long video and all the print offs for it. I'm going to show you on my laptop here. You click on masterclass, and it gives you, if you go down here, this is the roadmap to health class right there. And then right here, it's the roadmap to health image right above it. That's the little one I printed off for my clients and laminate it. And then above that, it's the actual print offs that go along with it. And you could literally teach it to a 5-year-old. It has a cute little image that's the same one that's on the map, and it has one page. It's 3 paragraphs on why you're doing each one of those things, step 1, positive affirmations, gratitude, and day planning. So you don't get into your day and you're all confused with what you're supposed to do, which causes anxiety. And if you start with gratitude, you're going to start your brain in a healing direction instead of the downward spiral. And it goes into why, research shows that fear on its own triggers more than 1,400 known physical chemical responses that activate more than 30 different hormones. It's if I start my day thinking on fear instead of gratitude, I can unleash in my brain up to 1,400 chemical toxins started in the brain, you create in your brain, that can affect up to 30 hormones in the body. And that's from Dr. Caroline Leaf. This is studied. So knowing that, it's okay, I'm going to get up, positive affirmations, scripture. I'm not going to think on fear. And it just goes through each little stop, and it's all printable, and you can do it with a group of friends, and it's all free. And the classes that I used to teach, every time I teach a class, I throw it up on that same page. So I have how to be your own best doctor class. So that would be phase 2, where you're getting into toxins, what toxins are, what you can do in your household. I have print off lists of how to swap out things in your home. All of that is free on that page. And I always tell people, before you even try to get in with me or try to get an appointment, go and utilize my free information. Is literally, those things change the lives of the people that have come and spend $400 to sit with me and all the money to come see me. And you might be able to do it on your own, So I always push people there first. I'm there's no gimmick, you get in there and you can see this much information, then oh, to buy this, it's it's all free. It's 100% free. So anybody can go on there, print anything out, watch any of the videos, and just get started on the basics and teaching themselves how to be healthy. It really catches any things that normally would fall through the cracks, especially if you go to the second class, which is how to be your own best doctor, which has all of its own print offs that gets into emotional stress, where emotional stress toxins go in the body, and certain stretches to do. It gets into the nitty gritty of stuff that doctors will never figure out, and they'll be I had clients that I've been to the Mayo Clinic, I've been to Harvard, I've been to all these places, I've spent so much money and they haven't figured out what fixed them. And they come and see me and they're oh my gosh, really? That was it? And it fixed my problem? And I was right? And I'm like, and I'm so much cheaper. And then some of my information is free. You know, it's like, you probably could have done this without me. I had a lady reverse her PCOS. And she was the one that went to the Mayo Clinic. She was told that she could not have children unless she did in vitro. She could not lose weight. She was about 100 pounds overweight. She could not lose weight unless she got a gastric tube. And this is as per the Mayo Clinic. What else? She had PCOS. She had a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. And she reversed all of it in 6 months, just doing, you know, she came for a visit. She did all the stuff and we tweaked all the little things that we need to do. I changed her diet completely. And she got pregnant, lost 60 pounds while pregnant, and reversed every single PCOS symptom, all her gastrointestinal stuff, and had a baby all on her own. She didn't even contact me once in between all of that and be like, check in with me or anything. She wrote me a letter a year later saying, by the way, I just wanted to thank you. I'm going to have a baby girl. I've lost 60 pounds. My PCOS went away. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, that is crazy. And she spent 15 grand at the Mayo Clinic. She only spent $400 in my office. You know, it's just like, and she was just like, I did not know that my body had the capability to do this. Mm-hmm. And it's like, we get in our own way, you know, and we're told by doctors, you can't unless, you know, there's a medical intervention, and that's not true. Our bodies can heal themselves. If you get out of the way, you know, get out of your own way, you figure out what the missing link is. So.
No, we're always taught that we're deficient in X, which is a pharmaceutical drug, or you can fix it without a cut, slice, removal. I'm going, no. The body is incredible. It's been healing itself for thousands of years. Just get out of its way. And sometimes, you got to get some things out of its way, like mold for you, or mold for me a few weeks ago. When I bumped into it for the first time in a really negative way. I had Lyme several years ago. It's like, just get those things out and then let your body do its job. It's amazing if you can just do that. I'm in Kansas City, so I have people drive straight from Mayo, straight south, 6 hours, and end up in my office with the labs they got checking out. And they're like, they told me it's in my head. And I'm like, you should use a walker to get in here. You're 30. I don't think it's in your head. At least I don't, unlikely. And I talked to this one guy and he goes, I'm 30, I've lost 60 pounds. I got neuropathy. I get lightning shock headaches. And I go, oh. And I looked at his blood work. I'm like, they've been telling him he's B6 toxic and B12 toxic. And that's what started this. I go, you've got like 10 years of labs here. And this started when? He's like, oh, last year. You've been, what they're saying is new for 10 years. So I don't think that's the problem.
Nope.
So I go, let me just look around. And we actually looked at his blood under a microscope and we saw more bacteria than I saw red blood cells.
Wow.
I'm like, might be Lyme. Can't diagnose it off of a microscope like that. We got to send for some tests. Anyway, we started detoxing him, just doing drainage and detox. He sent me a video, not using his cane anymore. After 2 months, he sent me a video because I had him doing like these little exercises just to help his lymph, just little tiny, like kind of air squats and just like swinging his arms just to move, doing this. I mean, ridiculous thing, sitting down on a couch. And he would do it like 3 times, be like, and then he sends me a video 2 months later where he's standing up, he's swinging his arms like as fast as he can go, jumps up, claps his hand under his leg, then into the other leg. And he goes, this. I literally broke into tears because my staff showed me this video. I'm like, that's why we do our job. And I mean, we're still working together because it was a pretty bad infection, but I mean, he's working again. So just get out of the way sometimes. Like, get the stuff draining, make the body do its job. I love it.
That's amazing.
So if somebody does want to work with you, even after they read your roadmap, I'm going to guess you're going to say just contact you through your website, but is that accurate?
I'd say yes. At the same time, with all the school stuff that's going on, I won't be seeing clients probably until January. Like, my kids aren't in school because of all the COVID stuff. And so I don't see myself being able to see clients like in person. But what I would do is I would follow me on Instagram and get updates. I mean, you can go to my website and fill out a form, but like I said, I'm not seeing anybody virtually or in person right now. But follow me on Instagram. I'm going to start an Arizona group. And like I said, I only see people in person. So I'm gonna start an Arizona group, and I'll start seeing people in person most likely in January. But like I said, I give away so much free information. I always tell people, follow me and figure out what resonates with you. Like I have a whole video on it on my website. Figure out what resonates with you, because I've seen people heal themselves over the last couple of years just following me and like being like, oh, that's for me. That's something I need to do. And then they just start picking up pieces and they start doing it, and they'll use my free tools and stuff too. And I'm not like you. I don't look at blood under a microscope, or, I mean, I do bioenergetic testing, which is pretty freaking fantastic. We figure out a lot of stuff doing that. But a lot of people just, I mean, the root cause is always toxicity, lymphatic drainage issues, drainage issues. It's always that funnel, you know, and once you figure out what is causing it, then the little things get down to the nitty gritty. My Be Your Own Best Doctor video gets down to the nitty gritty. I was breaking out in shingles and my lips were swelling this big, and I figured out it was from eyelash extensions. You have to be ruthless about eliminating toxins in your life. Ruthless. If you have drainage issues in the body, if you have autoimmune disease, if you have Lyme, if you have mold, you have to be ruthless. And if you don't look at those teeny tiny things, like the other day I told someone, I'm like, have all this issues with too much iron in the body, and their white blood cells are going through the roof, and no doctor can figure out, oh, too much iron, don't take any vitamins, don't do this, don't do that. And I'm like, are you cooking on cast iron? Are you barbecuing a lot? And they're like, yeah, cook on cast iron all the time. It's supposed to be the healthy thing. And I'm like, that is where all of that iron is coming from. That is where all the issues, that's why your white blood cells are going crazy, and your body thinks you have an infection and it's attacking itself. And she's like, I can't believe no doctor thought about that. You know, she's like, they're taking me off all of my vitamins and making sure I'm not getting iron from any source, and they never even ask what I cook on. You know, it's like, you just have to be ruthless about every single little thing. Otherwise you could be I mean, I've seen people boil water for an enema bucket in Teflon. What do they think is going to happen when they boil water in Teflon? All those chemicals are going in right in their rectum, that's going right into their bloodstream. You have to be ruthless. There's no cutting corners. People are always like, what can I get that's cheaper? And I'm like, I'm always going to find the most affordable option for everything that is going to be the healthiest. You know, when it's a vibration plate, they're like, oh, what can I find that's cheaper? I'm like, no, I want cheap, you know, but I want it to be effective, and I don't want to just shake up my body. I want it to do an oscillating mimic of a jog and go in a figure 8 instead of just shaking the body and rattling it, you know. So I found the best price that does that. Saunas, same thing. Don't buy the Amazon sauna that's going to off gas on you and have really high EMF. Get a high quality sauna like the Therasage, or I bought the Relax sauna, and I was worried that it was going to have EMF. I got a $300 meter to test it and make sure it didn't have EMF. And I'm like, what? If you get your inches 2 inches off those heaters, you have 0 EMF on the body. So all you do is fold up some washcloths. And for me, that one makes me sweat more and faster. So I was just like, perfect, 0 EMF. And I'm sweating like a psychopath. But if you go out and try to figure out how to do everything cheap, you're cheating your own health. It's like, I would rather buy something on a payment plan or do a GoFundMe and raise some money to get something that is going to really benefit and make me healthier, rather than always trying to cheat. People are always like, what can I get away with? It shouldn't be what can I get away with? It's how radical can I be for my health? And I'm like, that's who I want to work with, because people are like, ooh, what store-bought thing can I get? You know, or, you know, what corner can I cut? It's like, you got to be going completely radical before you start messing around with cutting corners. First, get as healthy as possible. Then you can look and be like, oh, I can eat out a little bit. I can do this, I can do that. But you got to be radical about getting healthy first.
Oh, I completely agree with you. I all the time see people trying to cut corners, and although I get it, healthy isn't cheap.
Yep.
You only have one body.
Yep.
You only have one experience. You're not going to get your 28th year back, your 30th year back, or for those that are 70 that I'm working with, your 70th year back. Like, do everything you can to the best of your ability. Don't go buy the cheap supplement that has all the fillers, that has low quality stuff that probably won't work to begin with, but if it does, it's going to take 10 times longer. I mean, I even have people where I do some muscle testing too, and I look at their supplements and I go, wait a minute, I'm testing that you need 15 of whatever you bought versus 2 of what I bought.
Yep.
Pretty sure that cheap just got expensive.
Yep.
So just invest in your health. They've actually shown that even diabetes costs $85,000 after insurance steps in for those people who have it. If you just spend a little extra money on getting quality food and not eating so much processed food, even though the processed food could be cheaper, I bet you save that money and a lot of pain and suffering.
Mhm.
So I'm completely with you on that. Well, we have done this for an entire hour. We haven't even gotten any questions. You want to take a couple questions before we call it a night?
Yeah, let's take a couple. I have a daughter that wants me gone, so we'll have to do it quickly. But yes.
I thought you might say as much. So, I've got people talking about cookware. Somebody never heard of iron. She said AZ. So, are you in Arizona?
I am. I just moved to Arizona.
You have a recommendation for cookware.
I do. I actually have a whole highlight on my Instagram page on cookware because there's a couple different brands that I really like, but my favorite are the waterless cookware companies that are made in Wisconsin. They are either T304 or they call them T316 or something like that. They're all surgical grade, non-leaching stainless steel. There's companies called Americraft, KitchenCraft, Nutristol, but I have a whole highlight on my Instagram page that goes through all of those, and I get most of them on eBay. People have estate sales. You'll see them come up on Craigslist. It's the least expensive way to get them. You just want to make sure they're T304, T13. Do not buy the stainless steel stuff that's 1810. That means it's made out of scrap metal, and the hardness means it's porous. So you want to go for like surgical stainless steel that's made in America, not made in China. And most of it comes from West Bend, Wisconsin. And that's what I would purchase. And I even have some highlights on how to cook with it because you have to preheat it for a long period of time to heat all the layers in it, and then it doesn't stick. So
Well,
good.
the only two main questions, I think you answered things so well, was one, what was the name of your favorite probiotic? Was it HM something?
HMF, yeah. And if you go to healingcavelady.com and click on supplements, I have my own supplement store, and I ship those free 2-day cold shipping, no tax, and free shipping on all the HMF supplements. So that's a good place to go. And I have little sets like HMF powder and HMF multi-strain, which I have people rotate, which is my favorite.
All right. Well, I think we're going to call it a night just so you can get back to your daughter. I thank you so much for doing this with me. I enjoyed it. Maybe we'll have to get back and do a Instagram live for all the people that don't have Facebook someday.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks, guys, for watching.
Yeah, thanks
Have
for
a good
coming.
night. All
Bye.
right. Bye.